everyone, we're back here at the Digout. Spring is in full bloom. As you can see, all the trees are nice and green, so that's really pretty. But we're here to talk about concrete. Let's go ahead and take a peek at everything we got going on here. So first things first, we have our little storage yard here that's kind of expanded a little bit. You can see this is where they dump the excess concrete and then leftover dirt as well, and we're starting to slowly pile up all the excess wood and stuff. You'll see that when we go down there, they've pretty much poured most of the footers and concrete work that we need to do on this job, so we're getting really close to a final product. By the end of today here, they'll probably take all this excess wood, load it up in the trailer, and send this back over to the yard for use on our other jobs. I haven't really talked about this in any of the previous videos, but you can see that we have this chain link fence going around our kind of yard here at the job, and this is really useful just because we're able to store a lot of things here on the job site outside of, you know, the basement. The general contractor that does this, Basements and Beyond, they come in and they bring in this kind of chain link fence that they put around the job, and this is really nice for these residential jobs just because we're able to store some stuff outside. Less important stuff, obviously, we take all the important stuff home, as you should on any job. Making our way back here to the entrance though, you will see that we have a large pile of dirt right at the entryway. So as I mentioned before, they're starting to work on that brick wall going into the previous basement. So they're extending that in there. We have a crew of 3 in here today working hard, getting stuff done. Before we go in and dive deeper into the process that they're doing down there, I want to take a second to just answer a question that we get all the time on these YouTube videos, is how much does something like this cost? So for this, I can't give any exact numbers. This really just comes down to the area you live in, the labor rates, all that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry to say that we can't really give a specific price on how much something like this costs, just because every project is so different. We'll probably do more of a breakdown video here in the future with Gold, who will sit down and kind of go over a breakdown of pricing. He still won't be able to give anyone an exact price, but he can go over, you know, what to expect, kind of like how to add up the cost, that kind of stuff, to get a general idea of what your basement will be priced at if you do a basement extension or a dig out similar to this. But let's go ahead and check out this basement dig out and see what the guys have done this week. Alright, you can see that most of the material has been removed on this job, and we have it piled up near the entrance for it to easily be shot out with a conveyor at the end of this week. Final forms are going up on the footers here. You can see that they have all the rebar in them. They got the vapor barrier, and now they just need the forms built around them, and then they're going to get the concrete poured into them. As I mentioned in last week, they started to move up near this brick wall here, where you can see they're going to start the footers on this. They did a little one right here just to secure the foundation from falling in. For the height was up here, we want to make sure that this is nice and stable, so we poured a temporary footer right here, and then we're going to go underneath this one and then pour a full footer as before. And as you can see here, here's where the doorway into the previous basement's going to be. They have it chalked up right here with the markings. You can see those on either end. At the later end of this week or next week, they're going to come in with a saw and saw cut into the existing basement, bridging these 2 rooms together. Taking a look at the footers, you can see a better look at the kind of system we have underneath. We have our rebar tied together, the vapor barrier behind that, and then the first pour is this ground slab right here that goes underneath the footer. That way our form can rest above here and then form up the footer. And you can get a better look at that right here. Alright, before I send you guys off to future me with the time-lapse, I want to give you a little update on our TLC 300 that we've been using to film this job for the time-lapse sections. And I am beyond impressed. We've been on this job for 5 weeks now recording, and I've had these 2 time-lapse cameras up on the job recording the whole dig out for the time-lapse sections, and I am very impressed with the battery life on this TLC 300. So you can see here it's at 45% state of charge, and this is 5 weeks in, as I mentioned. So roughly you're looking at 2, maybe even 2.5 months worth of battery life on this thing for a time-lapse camera, which is astounding. For a little context, this has been recording Monday through Friday for 1-minute intervals from 6 to 5, so 9 to 5. So average work day. If we wanted to, if we had a job out in the mountains, or we could get this up somewhere high for a job, we could set it up, have it record for 2.5 months, not worry about it, come grab the footage, and then have a full time-lapse video. So really impressed with what they've done with the battery life on this camera and just the ease of use. Really, just been really pleased overall with the whole entire thing and the camera system. It's been really nice, very versatile, but not only that, it's super ergonomic and just easy to work with. So I'm really in love with this camera. I think if we get any more of these Brino systems, TLC 300 is going to be the next one that we get. So I highly recommend if you guys are looking to do any kind of time-lapse, whether that's for your own construction jobs or if you're looking just to time-lapse something for fun, look into Brino's TLC 300. I am very impressed with it. The battery life is incredible and it's just been nothing but good for us. But enough of that, let's go ahead and hop into the time-lapse and go ahead and discuss everything that happened this week. I'll see you guys there. Hopping into our time-lapse here, you can see just how open and wide this room is now compared to when we first started this project. With all the dirt removed, it really is just like a whole new house underneath this home. They're slowly going to start to dig into these last footer holes, and you can see they're going to make one final pile of dirt. And you can see that even though these footer holes are pretty small, the amount of dirt that we're able to get out of these things. So when it comes to these dig out jobs, it really is just the majority about the fastest and most efficient way that you can remove dirt out of here. That's going to be your biggest bottleneck on these kinds of projects. Luckily for us, we have a pretty large crew and we can afford to have multiple people on the inside as well as the outside of this job, so everything runs pretty smoothly throughout the whole process and there really is no slowdowns except for breaks and lunches. Besides that, when these guys are working, dirt is constantly being moved out. It turns into a really well-oiled machine, and as you can see in the footage here, they're going to build up this pile of dirt near the entry hole, and then we have a second guy who's going to shovel this out the conveyor belt, who has another guy outside with a wheelbarrow who takes this out to the trailer. And you can see just how quickly they built up that pile of dirt and now it's almost completely gone. Runs super smoothly when you have a decent amount of guys down here and everyone knows what they're doing, because as you've seen in the video, they had people moving the dirt and then you had people building up these forms as well. Multiple things are going on at once, increasing the overall efficiency of everything and then just moving this project along even faster, versus if everyone was to just stop what they're doing and then just do one thing. We have enough guys to spare so that a little bit of everything is being done all at once. Something that I want to address as well is something that we get asked all the time: why don't we use an electric mini excavator down here to help on the dig out process? So there's multiple reasons for this. The first being that we would have to create a larger entry hole, so that means a larger saw cut, as well as putting a ramp from the front yard into the basement. You don't want to take these things down like a 45-30% grade, so you want a nice grade going from the outside into the basement, and this can be pretty lengthy at times, especially if you're going pretty deep down into the basement, and that requires you messing up the homeowner's property quite a bit. So we try to make that process as least intrusive as possible and keep our footprint down to a minimum and not waste a bunch of energy and resources that we don't have to. Another reason for this is just safety concerns. This is a large piece of equipment that you'd have down there in tight quarters, and you don't want to accidentally have someone smushed, or worse, have it accidentally collide with something structural like a pillar or something holding up the roof and then have the building collapse on you. So it's a really big safety concern as well, just because of how tight these quarters can be, and accidents tend to happen. So by removing that entirely, we remove the possibility of such an incident occurring, and in turn creating something that would be far worse than just having a few extra days or a week of manual labor. And those two reasons right there are just the main reasons why we don't use any of these little electric mini excavators whatsoever down in these jobs. So mainly just because it's very intrusive and it's of safety concern. But that's going to bring us to the end of this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the time lapse, and we will see you next week when they have all these formed up, most of the dirt removed, and then hopefully they'll get into saw cutting, and then finally we'll start work on the floor and pouring that final floor slab, which will be a really fun process to film as well. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will be seeing you later.